Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, life coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Gina Marotta, career coach and spiritual guide. And Gina and I are going to be talking on the topic of owning our feminine genius in a masculine world. Welcome, Gina.
Hello, Myrna. It's great to be here with you and all of your amazing fans and audience.
You're very welcome. Yes, I love talking about energy, whether it's masculine and feminine. And I don't spend a lot of time on career topics on this show. So we were going to get into that today and how we can use our feminine energy in business and for careers. So stick around. You should be able to pick up some great tidbits on your career path in this conversation. All right, so let me give you a little brief introduction to Gina. Gina Marotta is not your everyday career coach. She believes there is a better way to live than how the majority of the world is operating currently. Many of us are operating in our masculine the majority of the time. But what other choice do we have, she says. That's how the world runs. We are told that if we are to be successful, we must be chasing, doing, achieving, all from our masculine. Gina's mission is to elevate the feminine wisdom in our masculine run world through connecting women with their soul-aligned missions and purpose as careers. And when we do this, we're actually being of service to help make the world a better place. Yes, women run the world. Who run the world? According to Beyonce, right? Okay. All right. So, Gina, as we dive right in, what are some steps women can do to step out of masculine energy into feminine energy?
Yes, opening topic. And one thing that is, I love how you said stick around because we're going to talk about how to apply this in your career. And I want to add the reason I want to ask women to stick around for this conversation because I believe what we're going to talk about is the answer to a lot of your prayers at work, what's working, what feels hard, what feels stressful, what you want to change. A lot of what you're seeking, you're going to find inside your feminine energy. So that's my invitation today.
Good.
Okay. And so back to your question is how can we say the question exactly again?
I said, what are some steps that women can do to step out of masculine energy and into feminine energy? And from what I know about masculine energy is what you introduced in your bio. Always chasing, always doing, always achieving. So
Right. So let me start with this. The idea of even taking quote unquote steps is a masculine idea because the masculine is about a linear way of operating, right? We set a goal, we set steps, we have a strategy, and we move in a linear way. The feminine is the polar opposite of that. And when we use both of them in our lives, in our work, they create a complement and a balance. So the feminine, if we want to bring some practices to release masculine and embrace the feminine, let's not call it steps. Let's call it practices. And they're practices that awaken and aliven our feminine side. Now, I'm going to give you a caveat. I'm going to share what some of these are, and you're probably going to have a reaction. So let's just be honest about that up front. I'm going to share some practices, and you're going to be like, well, what does that have to do with business? That would be a waste of time. That's ridiculous. Like, that's not working, right? That's not what I'm getting paid for. But again, stay tuned, listen to the podcast, and you're going to understand why these are. Number one, you're going to have fun and enjoy doing them. But number two, they are going to actually be productive towards what you want to create in business. So some practices that invite in your feminine might include, let's start with one, connecting with your own heart. Okay. We're so in our minds and our logic, very masculine. Being inside our heart is where we're connected to our deepest, truest nature. This is where we may commune with what the collective needs beyond just what's right in front of our face, which might be, let's say, a revenue goal, right? Inside our hearts, we're going to connect more broadly to the greater needs of our projects, of the community, of the world. And we start to create inside a state of flow and service that is beyond just a linear trying to get from point A to point B. It's got a more global perspective. So connecting in with your own heart is also going to help you understand more what your purpose is, where your greatest skills lie, right? Again, not just in your head, but from your heart space, you have a deeper understanding of who you are and what you bring to the table.
Okay.
Another practice, in addition to connecting with your own heart, is to connect really to inspiration. And the way we connect to inspiration is through like dance, play, and creativity, right? This is where I was saying you're going to think, well, how does that apply to work? It does. Because think about it. Inspiration is where our best ideas come from. And we're as a group of women here in this moment, we can all say we've witnessed like miraculous things happen, things that you just were like, wow, I didn't know it could be that good. We've experienced that. And it usually comes when something flows from inspiration, meaning it's not just my own logical idea. I released, I let go, I became an open channel for the universe to move through me, and it gave me a better idea than I ever could have come up with myself. But we tap inspiration by tapping our feminine. It's not being open. So for me, I do women's retreats, and my partner, Amy, and I have multiple meetings before we have a retreat. Pretty much every call we have together, we do a dance party before we open the space for our meeting, because we want to like just shake off any kind of logic or what's been going on. We want to just open to inspiration for what we're about to create. That's something we love doing. And it's about what feels good too. Some people love drawing, or, creativity could even be like listening to some inspirational music or reading something that like just it's a poem and it makes you feel alive, right? So tapping inspiration is another. And then I'm going to give you one more.
Mhm.
And the other practice for tapping your feminine, this is so funny. It just flew out of my consciousness. This is very feminine because it's about really listening to the inspiration in the moment. And so I'm going to just guess that we were only meant to have those two for now. That's pleggy. It just flew out. But
You
the
did
feminine is
say
being fluid in the moment. And it's a,
right,
oh,
right.
well, that went out of my mind. So it's not necessary right now. Let's go on to the next.
Yeah, that's a good save. But you know what? I want to circle back to both of those things.
Mhm.
One of the most powerful books I've ever read is The Alchemist. And The Alchemist is all about listening to your heart. And yes, I mean, I personally is tried to be guided by my heart, because that book is always in my head. So yeah, lead with your heart. Listen to your heart. Your heart has got everything that's been recorded, and it guides you, and it's great. Now, I'm also a person that very much led by inspiration. The other day I was walking, and this something came to me while I was walking, and I knew immediately that that is inspired action. When I wake up in the morning and something comes into my mind, I know that is my spirit guide is sending me inspiration. If I'm walking and it pops into my head, and it was something to do with my daughter, so I called her immediately and I said, "The universe gave me this message for you." And it's inspired action, because the way it came through to me. So that is great. And I think I told you before we started the recording that I've had a lot of conversation on this show regarding feminine energy. And when you were talking about movement and dancing, I remember there's one guest that I had here that told me that if I'm ever feeling that I'm in the masculine, that I should put on some music and just move. So I have done it. You know what I
Yes.
mean? I'm working, from home, podcasting. And if I feel something coming on or whatever, or even if I'm not in the flow, right? Put on some music and move your body, because she says once you move your body, you immediately tap into your feminine energy. And yeah, what you use it for is definitely to create, whether it's in business, your personal life, your career. It's what you use to connect to the universe. And we're going to have a conversation later on about the divine feminine. So, I mean, it's all the same energy. So that's great. So I don't know if you remember the third one by now, if you want to mention it. Did it pop back in?
We'll come back. I'm sure we'll come back to it. It'll flow in when it's
It
ready.
didn't pop in yet? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I like what you're saying about getting out of the masculine. And of course, if we want to touch on a little bit more into masculine, right, masculine is always doing and chasing. And like if you were the CEO of your company, in fact, I had one of the topics on the show, way before, was this woman that says that she was going bankrupt in her masculine energy and she had to get back into her feminine energy in order to save her business. So it's powerful. It's very important, right? So
Yes.
us
Miraculous results can come through by listening. Like you were saying, that inspiration comes in and you've just solved a big problem that that you had no idea in your logical mind how to handle. Right.
right. Right, exactly. So yeah, it's a big topic. So I absolutely love it. And I mean, like I said, I can go on and on about the masculine. I mean, I've had several relationship coaches come on and talk about how women are in the masculine energy all the time, and it clashes with the male because they're in the masculine, and you can't connect because you need a masculine and a female
Yes.
to do any kind of connecting. And I like what you said, that, that's how the world is run, right? The masculine is in the masculine, the feminine is in the masculine, because we always think that we've got to do things and chase things, and we're not sitting around for things to happen for us. So, all right, so let's transition into the career part of this, right? So, as a career coach, how do you help women use feminine wisdom? I mean, I'm not sure if you're tagging that as something different from the energy to create a purposeful career path. How do we marry the two?
Yes. So there's two concepts I teach my clients about that are the biggest essence. And we'll start with these two. So the first one is about creating from intention, and the second one is about creating from your intention. And so let's start with which one do you want to talk about first?
No, you go ahead. You're the expert. Okay. I'm just the support cast.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So let's start with intention. So whenever we start a business, a project, get onto a meeting, write an email, we usually have an outcome in mind that we're moving towards. That's how we are in business. And that is what we're saying is very masculine. It's about a goal, a step, an action. It's very linear and very focused on what we're actually doing. What's missing here is the feminine, which is this bigger idea of intention. Why are we even doing this thing? It's the energy behind the action. Intention is about really like what is the space I'm creating or holding for myself, for this person I'm engaging with, maybe even for a greater community beyond that. And I will share, I've written a blog on this if you want to go deeper, but this is really Oprah Winfrey's like biggest business secret. She always says creating from intention is why her television show was on the top and most successful for 25 years. She never
Yeah.
just created an episode saying, we want to get these ratings. There had to be a bigger purpose that this guest or this story was being covered on her show. She always told her producers that, and that's always how they operated. And so she's just a great example of the success of intention. And so intention is about why are you doing what you're doing? And if we're just focused on, I'm writing this email to get this person to sign this contract that I sent them. Well, why does that contract even exist? What are you trying to create? How do you want them to feel in the process of working with you and creating this alliance that you're creating through the contract? Right? And we forget this. This is what has been lost with the feminine not being inside business. And our feminine selves are very connected to nurturing relationships, to taking care of the greater community, to investing in the needs of partners, people lives. And so when we bring intention into whatever we're doing, again, it could be the very foundation of a business you're starting, It could be a meeting, it could be a project. I've had miraculous results with my clients. And one of the things with women is we feel better when we're working from an intention instead of just trying to push a result, because that's the masculine. And it's not that that's wrong. For most women, that feels harsh to be just trying to make a result happen, as opposed to the whole nurturance that occurs in anything we create. So the way that you connect to intention is getting a sense of the bigger why and how you want the people involved in whatever you're up to feel and what you want them to experience. So this is number one biggest piece that I would say I start with clients.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Listen, the power of intention is powerful. Maybe 20 years ago now, I read Dr. Windmeyer's book, The Power of Intention, and I understand intention. I am a spiritual being, and before I start this podcast, I sit and make a prayer, and I have an intention of how I would like it to for me and my guests to communicate. And I also have an intention of where the episode will go and what is the purpose of it and all that. But yeah, and getting back to Oprah Winfrey, the reason Oprah Winfrey is like this is because some of the guests that she's had on her show has opened a door to spirituality for her. One of her guests is Dr. Bernard Shaw. I mean, who is one of the people that talk about intention and spirituality. And then she had that class with Eckhart Tolle, one of my favorite people, about the now and all that. So she embraced that for herself. And when you embrace things and you live it, then it flows out. And yeah, and and guess what? She's the billionaire, right? So it works. The universe gives you what you need when you tell it what your intention are. And then the last piece I will say on that is, if you want to build a kingdom, right, and you're not just doing things for yourself, right? You're doing something for yourself, but you're also, kingdom minded and people minded and community minded, then yes, the intention will work very well. But we still have to we can't be in our heart space all the time, and we can't be in our whatever. We've actually just got to do those tasks, but we do them in conjunction. You set a meeting, you have a goal that you want the meeting to have, but then you put it to the universe, and you have the overall goal. So that is great. So, but let's bring it back to the career path. How does that,
Yes.
we're talking to women today that want to have a career path. We're going to talk now with somebody that's working for someone. And then later on, I guess we can talk about businesses. So how do this power of intention and the universe, connect with, okay, I want to be, um, you know, let me think of a career, a life coach, for instance. Well, life coach
Well, are you saying if someone wants to change their career, how might you use
yeah,
new
right, exactly. Because we're talking about career path. Right.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm someone who's made career transitions twice. I started as a lawyer and I left that and I ran a nonprofit organization and I left that to start my current business. So career transitions really is an area of my specialty, and that is the focus in which I use feminine energy.
Okay.
So the power of intention, for example, when that's utilized in the process, is going to create different outcomes than if we are just operating from a goal in mind, right? It's like, how do I want, what am I really wanting to create? When we come through intention, it's like, how do I want to feel in my career? I want to feel fulfilled. What do I want to be doing? I want to be in service to others, right? When we come at career the way we've been taught from society currently, it's very much from the masculine. We've gone, like, you just look at the education system. It's about making a good wage and fitting into somewhere that society says it's what is needed. So what I'm helping people to tap into instead is using your feminine energy, which helps you go inside yourself and find the bigger purpose, And then the second part of my work is uncovering your inner genius, which really is the divine gifts that you've been given and the skills that you were just naturally born with. And so, in transforming a career path, it's really about your feminine energy to navigate the course and the changes. Like, what am I really here to do? Like surrendering that. It's about letting go of what you thought you were supposed to be and surrendering that into who was I truly born to be. And this is a very feminine act, right? It's like I am going to give up that, money and security are at the forefront. Now, I'm not saying those things don't matter, but they come later in the inquiry. It's like, let's
Right.
surrender everything to what are my gifts? How can I serve? How do I want to feel? How do I want people to feel around me? And then we'll figure out the money and the security piece that will line up. But inside the feminine, we really let go.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That's true. It's good. Um, Almost, coming into what I said earlier about um kingdom minded and being of service. So you want, you know, I remember when again, talking about my daughter again. So when she was in college or high school or something, you always have a guidance counselor, and the guidance counselor is going to tell you, "Hey, this is a career you should go into because it makes this much money." Right? So
Yes,
that's
right.
what
That's exactly how it goes. Yes, yes.
probably the reason you
And
went in to be a lawyer at first, right? Because
well,
the right career for
I
making
mean,
money.
we really get talked out of where we want to go. Like if I followed what I wanted, I would have studied psychology, but everybody talked me out of that. And really, what am I doing now? It's more in the field of psychology. So that's the norm. Is you're going to be guided towards what you quote unquote should do based on the masculine view of what a career is, but the feminine is more about community and the collective. Always has been, right? There's this idea that is backed up by research that is that when the money is in the hands of the women, they invest it back in the community. What do we see with money in the hands of men? They're hoarding it. That's what's happening right now, right? And not everybody, but that's
Right,
with the masculine leading, they're hoarding the money.
right,
The feminine doesn't do that. And so with the feminine, because we're community oriented, the way we approach how we work and what we do professionally is it's new, it's different, and it's going to take some courage for us to step out and trust. But if you're saying that you're someone who's spiritually minded, I'm going to imagine a lot of your listeners are. That's what a lot of this is. It's a lot of faith that I am receiving guidance that is about creating a world that is better than the world we are in today, that is serving people better than they're being served today. There's a lot of crumbling of old systems. Well, who's going to develop the new, better systems that take care of everybody? It's going to be the women. It's
right.
going to be the
Yes,
women. Yes.
yes, because we're the nurturers, right? Yes,
That's right. That's right.
right. Okay, all right. That's great. Yes, listen. Um, uh, I do believe that a lot of women are not in feminine energy. So, it's great that we keep bringing it to them, and maybe one of these messages will stick. But it's an important message. It's an important message because if you want to be successful in anything, right, you've got to tap into our God-given ability. And God
That's right.
made you feminine and gave you certain things that the masculine doesn't have. And in order for you to be successful in anything, career, relationship, friendships, all that, you've got to, tap into that intuition, tap into that um uh, energy of the universe and feminine energy and the things that makes you different. All right. So I know we've been talking a lot about feminine energy and things like that, but you're also a spiritual guide. So how do you help women understand their divine feminine? Tap into what is the divine feminine and what you do as a spiritual guide.
Yeah. So about 12 years ago, I was sitting across from a woman who I had known professionally. She was a coach and an author and was doing really beautiful work in the world that I was aware of. And she said the words to me, divine feminine. And my mouth dropped open and I suddenly got on the edge of my seat. I was just like, what is this? I need to know what this is. Whatever it is, I'm looking for it.
I love that.
And so, I grew up mostly under the influence of Catholicism, like a very patriarchal religion and spirituality. And, I would say probably in my early 30s, I was really wanting to go back to spirituality, but I wanted nothing to do with the patriarchal underpinnings that spirituality had for me. I didn't like the word God at that time. And I'd already started doing women's empowerment work as my career. So where was I going to turn for spirituality? And that's when I found the divine feminine. And the divine feminine can mean a lot of things, but I will give like a the bigger definition is like if you're just looking generally, what is it? It is a spiritual understanding that comes from God as feminine, God having many faces of wisdom, of love, and ultimately being the creator, the birther of the entire universe. Um, the divine feminine comes from before the organized religions where goddesses were worshipped, where there has just always been this understanding that women as nurturers are to be, honored for all that we bring. This has shifted in the time of patriarchy and more of a system of the few having power over the many. And so, what the divine feminine I feel means today, uh, it's really like what lineage have you studied to open this part of yourself? So it may mean something different to different people. And I've studied the 13 moon lineage of the divine feminine, which is basically 13 faces of the goddess. And there's an oracle deck, the 13 moon oracle, that I'm just like someone could be deeply trained in tarot. I'm deeply trained in the 13 moon mysteries and what the feminine means. And so, for example, today in preparing for this podcast, I pulled an oracle card and I received wisdom from the goddess who is about sovereignty, who is about, it's interesting you're using the word kingdom quite often, right? It's about like, holding your own space, but also being able to hold for others around you. And this is the Lady of Communion, is the goddess that is inside of this energy. And she's very much about intention. So that was one of the reasons I felt intention would be a really powerful topic for us to talk about today. The other thing I want to say about the divine feminine, that regardless of what somebody believes spiritually, um, to me, it's so much about tapping our intuition. And you use that word. And I will say one of the practices, remember back in the beginning of the podcast, I had practices for you to tap your feminine. And I said there were three, and I couldn't remember the third. The third one was oracle cards. That's another one. So using oracle cards is a great way to tap into your feminine energy. And it's a way to access your own intuition. So oracle cards generally are, they're picture cards. They have words on them, images, and so you just through a deck, and you randomly choose a card, or you let your heart choose a card, or you let one fall out of the deck. And oracles are who you ask for wisdom, and so you pull something from the deck, and it shows you an image and words, and suddenly your own connection to the divine, your own spirituality is zeroing in on the answer to your question. What's needed based on looking at that card. And so that's the power of our intuition is not the logical linear information that the masculine in us is aware of. It like I like to call intuition. It's just like beyond logic. It can go way beyond that into the possibilities of the future and the new world we're creating. And so intuition really is where we come into a space of alignment, um, and a knowing of how to move forward. So it's a very powerful practice in business or in your career path to be using your intuition. Oracle cards are a great way to access it, but to get answers around your path.
Mm, that's good. And everybody can translate this, or do you have to have like a psychic or something to read these cards?
That That is a great question. Thank you for asking that, because a lot of people, the mainstream view of oracle cards is we need someone to interpret them for us. And listen, there are people that are deeply trained in certain decks. Like the most well known is what's called the tarot or tarot decks,
Right.
Tarot. And those really are very deep decks. And if you're not studied in it, you probably will not get the depth of a reading that someone who's studied that deck can give you. But there are much simpler decks that exist, that make it very simple for you to just look at it and gain insight. And I actually have on my website the digital oracle deck. So you can just go right on there, and you hit the button and then you take a screenshot, and that's how you basically get a card for yourself. And you'll see the deck that I have posted. You just ask a question about your career path or what's happening in business, and when you get your screenshot, you're going to see that you can interpret that card. There's nothing in there that you need someone else to tell you. So there's certain decks that are simpler, and mine is an example of that.
Well, that's good. Yes, because listen, the reason I asked that is because um, I had a psychic medium on the show a couple of weeks ago, and and I'm not quite sure why, but I think people that follow your browsing. I guess when I was, communicating with her and all that, then almost every day I get these moon readings,
Mm,
astrology cards, and all that, and someone is interpreting it. And anyway, so yeah, so I'm actually in that space right now. I stopped because they sent me stuff every day and I stopped opening it. But I was curious in the beginning to read where my moon is today and astrology things and all that. And I know that one of the
yeah.
things that she does as a psychic medium is read the cards,
Yes.
and whatever.
Yes.
I'm not sure it's the same cards or the deck, but
Yeah.
she's reading some
Well,
kind of cards, right?
yeah, astrology is its own thing. That's its own system. And then oracle cards are their own system. And so she might be doing a combination of the two, it sounds like. But and there are, like I said, some decks might be more like they just have such, like the tarot has such deep wisdom that is like hidden in it based on just mysticism that someone who's done the deep study in mysticism can find in those cards. But if you're someone who's a little newer, trying it out, a deck like mine, um, I think on my website, on my blog, I also have something called the Liberation Library, and inside there I have all kinds of books and resources on the divine feminine, and it includes a few simple oracle decks in there. So these are the kinds of decks that you can use on your own. And think of it this way. It's really, if it's a simple deck like the ones I recommend, it's just like if you went to your bookshelf and you picked a book and you opened it to a random page. You would see something in that page that prompts your intuition. And so oracle cards really are the same ideas. Like I just want to get inspired. I want to listen to myself. And you could pull the same card different times with different questions, and you're going to experience different things in that moment.
Well, that's good. Hey, any help as far as intuition and the universe, and all that is great because we are physical beings, but we are mostly spiritual beings and, non-physical. And in order for us to have a great experience here, we've got to tap into the non-physical part of ourselves. And that's all part, that's pretty good. The more you can learn and the more you can tap into that energy is great for you. Now, I teased in the beginning that we're going to start off with a career path and then we're going to get to business. And you say that women should surrender in business. I don't think you're talking about men, right? So, how do you teach women to surrender in business? That's a new topic for me.
Yes, yes. Well, it can sound counterproductive, right? Like we think we're supposed to take control in business, and it's really about who or what we're putting in control. That's really what surrender is about. So, most of what drives business is ego. That is most
Mostly
of
it's
what,
masculine.
well, we all have egos, and the masculine ego has been driving business.
Right. Mhm.
Right? So when we surrender, and men can surrender too, it's not that it's not possible. It would just be tapping their feminine side and their feminine energy. Surrender is about letting go and letting God. It is about letting go. And maybe you've heard this idea before. You could make God the CEO of your company. And if you don't like the word God, it could be like divine source or love. What if love is the CEO of your company, creating love and harmony and peace in the world? What if that is at the center of what you're doing? That's what surrender is about. And so it's where we have to let go of what we know and what we think should happen or how it's been done before. And to be honest, when I see people, especially women, doing business in the traditional prepackaged how men have done it, I want to yawn and just say that's so boring. It's so boring. Why are you using those models when you're a woman and you have all this access to surrender and God? And I get a lot of women don't know how, but this is what's possible. All the suffering that we're doing in our work lives can be, and this is a process, okay? I'm not asking anybody who doesn't yet have a relationship with God to surrender their business to God. That's why I do coaching and I have women's retreats and I that's a lawyer and wouldn't say the word God. And what I can tell you about that version of me is I was so stressed out. I carried the world on my shoulders. I was in such crippling fear and anxiety. It was like work round clock because I just felt so alone that I was the one that had to figure everything out. And so
Yes.
a lot of the pain we feel in our work lives, the stress, the burden, maybe you have to provide for your family, maybe you have a team of people and you're paying their salaries, whatever those burdens are, you're carrying them alone. Um, and what's possible in a process that is appropriate is
Mhm.
that ultimately you can give this to God, to the universe, and be shown new ways to operate that
Yes.
are the new way of the world with women leading.
Mm. Yes. That's powerful because yes, and you know something, once you've opened up that channel, it's great because you get a lot of downloads. Because you
Yes,
gotta open
that's
up that
right.
channel.
That's
Yes.
right. That's
Mhm.
right. That's right. And so I really want to be respectful and say that this is a process. It's like I do coaching or you, you said this work feminine, play with it, test it. What's really great is that the reason that women say yes to this, the reason I continue to say yes to this is I've seen the results. I've
Yes.
seen, like, I've always been financially provided for. I meet the most amazing people that I wouldn't expect to meet. It's like you're saying yes to just things showing up as you need them. The feminine is about attracting and drawing things in based on our own radiance, based on our own femininity, right? The masculine goes for it and makes it happen. But the feminine sits back and receives, and
Yes.
things come to her. But
Yes.
again, it's a process of getting to learn how that works. And with time, you will see, like, oh my God, oh wow, I don't have to hustle anymore. This really works.
Well, you know something, I I I'm not sure if I'm in my feminine energy a lot, but I am open to energy. I'm open to the spirit. You know, I meditate. I commune with nature, and let the spirit in and all that. And I get a lot of help from the universe. And I always thought it was the law of attraction. They're saying that who you seek is seeking you, kind of thing, right? But now you've just said that, when you're in your feminine energy, the universe, you're a receiver, and I know that that's true because what is the male? The male is the out, the feminine is the in, and we are receivers. So, hey, maybe I'm in more of my feminine energy than I thought, but I am in energy. I understand it's important. I understand positive energy is important. I understand, working with the laws of attraction and all those things are important. So yes, it's there's several different ways to get to to get to the heart, or we started off by talking about the heart. Your heart runs all that. Yes, once
That's right.
you're leading with your heart and not your head, it's running all that. So that's amazing. So this was a great conversation, Gina. I enjoyed tapping in. It was a little bit of a revision for me, but it's great to bring this message again and again to the listening audience so that they can get it and understand it. Because sometimes you have to hear things more than once. So I know you mentioned your website. It's with GinaMarotta.com. So tell our listeners how else they can connect with you. If you've got coaching programs you want to talk about, your social media handles where, people can, follow you.
Yes. So my website has a lot of resources. Product. The blog. There's a link to another great resource, which is my Insight Timer meditation and prayer page. So that's an app that's for meditation and prayer. There's thousands of teachers on there. For the area of business and career path, I have prayers, I have meditations that will really support you in the things we talked about today. So you can even link to that from my website. I have something on my website, reflection practice. And if the listeners happen to be someone who's wanting more feminine and purpose inside your career, that's a great ebook to download and get to know a little more about your feminine genius that's inside of you. And I have women's retreats, one coming up in September. You can find that on my website, and coaching programs if you're someone who's looking to learn more about your feminine energy or transition or aligned with who you really are, or sense of purpose. Be my honor to have a conversation and see if working together would be a fit. So, I am on. I'm in separation from Instagram first, but we're separate. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm just not active for the month of August, and maybe I will be after that. We'll see.
Okay. So what's your handle? Because this is probably not going to air until much later than that. So what's your handle on Instagram?
Okay, great. Gina Marotta. It's my name. GinaMarotta.
That's easy. Okay. All right. So that's amazing. Yes. Okay, guys. So like Gina says, there's a lot of information on her website. I love the fact because we didn't touch on meditation. I mentioned it, but we didn't talk about that. So I'm glad that you've got some prayers and meditation on there because yes, in order for you to tap into this energy, you've got to do, like she said, it's a process. You don't just open a book one day and you're there. There's a process. And the process starts with meditation and prayers. It's like the foundation. You start there. So I'm glad that you have that on there. I will have a transcript of my conversation with Gina on the show page, which is myhelps.us. And I will link out to her website. I'll also link out to her Instagram. If she's on there, then you guys can follow her. And Gina, when this episode airs, I will also tag you with the marketing clip. So awesome.
Wonderful.
All right. Well, listen, I enjoyed this conversation. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode. Like we were talking about your feminine genius in a masculine world. So as you wrap up, Gina, do you have any last words?
I would say take a deep breath. Anyone who's gotten all the way through this podcast and just maybe after you hit the off button, just sit with your heart for even 3 deep breaths and you'll start to feel your feminine force.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad when I get it. Then I not say that your heart leads everything. So that's amazing. Yes. I tell you, yes, I understand the value of the heart from the alchemists. Amazing. All right, guys. Well, listen, thank you for tuning into this week's episode. If you're watching this on iTunes, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave a rating. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'd love for you to leave a comment and, of course, subscribe again. Until next time, thank you, Gina, for being on the show. And until next time, namaste.